Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another awesome episode of Constellation Crew. I have my crewmates as well as my best friends, Madeline and Caleb. Say hi, guys.
Good morning.
Morning.
So, how's everyone's morning going?
Admittedly very sleepy, but that's on me.
Yep.
Life of
Yep.
a
A little
college
sleepy, but it's nice and gray here in Muncie. So,
or a little bit of
You
white.
mean nice and white?
Yeah,
Because I feel like nature was like, Happy April Fool's Day. It's not spring
man,
yet, it's
I'm
winter.
just so ready for warm weather.
right?
I just wish it would stop flip flopping between the two.
Right?
Well,
Exactly.
yeah. Welcome to the Midwest. The weather can't decide what season it is.
Exactly.
But at least when it comes to autumn, there's like a clear difference. Like at first it's very, very hot. Then
Mhm.
it's it's hot, but it's got a cool breeze.
Mhm. All right. Well, now I don't have to ask now because Madeline said it, but I'm gonna ask anyway. So, crew, what is so special about today? Is there a holiday today?
Uh,
April Fool's
well, let me think
Day.
about this. Uh, I think of it today. Several years ago, my brother did, play some kind of prank on me. What did that have something to do with it?
Probably. It's April Fool's Day. Congrats. I guess I would argue that I don't know if it's necessarily a holiday or just a continuous practice, but it is April Fool's Day. And in the spirit of that, I have an image for you guys and for the audience. The crew members have not seen this yet, but I
And
saw it
confirm.
today.
We haven't seen it.
And I think it's super cool, but for some reason, something seems a little off to me. So I want to show it to you guys to see if there's something going on that I'm not seeing, if you can help me out. So
We
here
got,
it is.
wait, what?
Eventually, it'll pop up. Here we go. So take a gander, take a look.
I mean, a Jupiter transit?
Yeah, Jupiter transit. Doesn't it sound cool?
But
Is
I'm
that
curious,
even
how
possible?
would that happen? I mean, isn't Jupiter, you know, farther out from the sun than us?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So would this actually happen in real life?
No.
No.
Exactly.
Which
Exactly.
it's funny you brought this one up because it'll tie into something I talk about later.
Exactly.
Is this like from a telescope, like see, like on a space probe that's beyond Jupiter, I guess, or
I am not exactly sure where this particular image came from. However, we are establishing that it is an April Fool's joke. Ha ha ha. You cannot see Jupiter
oh,
in this way in a telescope. The image says that you'll be able to see it in a telescope with a solar filter. That is not true. And even if you were to see some planet transiting the sun, you would not be able to see these very detailed bands. I don't know if the crew can see the detailed bands. I can, but it very clearly is showing the bands of Jupiter, but you really would not be able to see that much detail with a telescope in your backyard. But this is a prank. A lot of stuff loves to float around on April Fool's Day, a lot of misconceptions, a lot of things that people believe are true. But I thought for fun, we would bring this up, and I think it's kind of funny. But I'm really glad that you all figured it out. Yay, us. So we are going to say goodbye to the Jupiter image or the transit image.
Bye, Jupiter.
Bye.
right.
Um, Our crew member Caleb also informed me that this month is Global Astronomy Month, brought to you by Astronomers Without Borders. So they have a website filled with events that are going on hosted by them, and they even have a calendar of important astronomical events that are happening throughout this month. Their goal is to unite everyone with through the passion of astronomy to look up at the night sky together, to bond us all.
I know
So, what?
A noble goal.
Exactly. So if you guys are curious, we will be posting the link to their website in the chat so that you can take a look at any of the events that they have and to also keep up to date on some important astronomical events. Speaking of astronomical events or astronomical things, we are looking at our night sky facing south, and it is about 7 o'clock on today, 7 o'clock p.m. And there's this weird thing over here by the sun. It's kind of black, and I'm not entirely sure what that is, but I'm pretty sure my friend Caleb does. Do you know what that is, Caleb?
Yes, that is one of the most recognizable shapes in the sky, known as our moon.
Oh,
So this is actually the moon in its in what the moon, as we know, has like phases, which it goes through as throughout a period of a lunar month, and this is one of those phases known as a new moon. So now tonight, April 1st, is a new moon, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. In fact, at the very end of the month, on April 30th, there will be another new moon,
oh.
which is which is known as a unique event known as a black moon, which is when two new moons show up in the same calendar month. People might have heard of the phrase, once in a blue moon. That's
Huh?
actually refers to the opposite of the moon phases, when two full moons show up in the same calendar month.
Mm-hmm.
So,
So we have once in a black moon. And
Mm-hmm.
uh, I think once in a blue moon is kind of catchier. So,
I like
we
that.
can create a
yeah.
hashtag and make it popular.
So,
There you go.
and what makes it especially happy for me is that like think about it, today's April 1st, 2022, and then next Friday is April 8th, 2022. And then think of it, two years from that date, there'll be another new moon, which will pass in front of a certain object in the sky. I think is it,
Like
so
it kind of looks like it's almost about to do now.
Yeah.
so it's like, maybe this right here, Solarium is kind of like a prelude to what will happen in 2 years. So
See, you
Yeah, the
guys are
sun.
so smart. You put two and two together. My brain didn't even know, didn't even
See,
understand.
see, the sun and the moon are just trying to pregame us for the total solar eclipse
yep.
in 2 years.
But I worry because like it's Muncie and it's like Indiana. It's like it's in April, and April, as we all know, is terrible weather.
Yeah. For
uh,
clarity for our audience, there is going to be an eclipse in 2024. Caleb knows the specific date, and
I do
probably
as
Madeline
well.
as well. Which is it? What day?
April 8th,
April 8th,
2024.
2024.
All
You
right.
know,
Thank you very much. So we will be able to see it in Muncie. We are in the totality strip, if I am saying that
The
term
zone of
correctly.
totality.
Thank you, Madeline. So, but like Caleb mentioned before, it is in April, and Muncie is not the greatest in terms of weather in April, but
yeah.
we have hope.
No.
But
Yeah, too bad I didn't know we were gonna talk about the eclipse, because I would
Well,
have.
I just thought about it on the spot, like especially
yeah, and I mean, I didn't even think of why the moon was that close to the sun to
just
begin with. I just thought it was there just
the
'cause,
closer
and
we
I
get,
didn't.
the more I'm going to talk about it. Trust me.
Yeah.
So,
Oh yeah. Well, I was just like I had. See, I went to see the 2017 eclipse
oh, I
in
did
the zone of
too.
totality, and I have
Oh, it
pictures.
was amazing.
It
Oh,
was,
it
and I
was.
would have shared my picture.
Oh, I tried to take a picture, did not work. So,
It's
Well,
okay.
that's all right.
Doing doing astronomical photography with a phone is not very easy.
Says the Constellation crew member who actually has taken some images with her phone, astronomical images. Speaking of, when we're talking about things that are very close together and astrophotography, we do have Madeline who took a wonderful image, and it'll eventually pop up on the screen here. What is exactly going on in this image, and what kind of event is this?
So what's going on in the image is what's called a conjunction.
Hmm.
And basically, if you're wondering what a conjunction is, it's basically when two astronomical objects have the same, what's called right ascension, uh, or ecliptic longitude. And both of those are basically celestial equivalents to earthly longitude,
Hmm.
except there's a few differences which are above the scope of this broadcast, but uh, Dr. Barrington would be proud that I remember what they are. In any case, um, typically, uh, you can have like basically any two objects that are like really, really close to each other, and but there are traditionally like two types that with regard to the sun and an object and the planets. And so there are superior and inferior conjunctions. Um, the superior conjunction is when the planet passes in front of the sun, and
Hmm.
then the inferior one is when the planet or I think I messed that up. Inferior is when it passes in front of the sun, and superior is when it goes behind the sun.
Oh.
There are diagrams out there that depict this better than I can like draw and explain.
Hmm.
But when the sun isn't involved, they don't really like classify it. It's just a conjunction. And in the picture that you're seeing, it is an image of the Great Conjunction of 2020, which happened in December of that year. I happened to be at my grandma's house in Florida, and I walked outside and I could see Jupiter and Saturn very, very close together through the trees. So if you see those two dots in the image through the trees in my grandma's yard, then that is your conjunction for you.
Wow. It's really beautiful. I love the background. I love the trees. It's really nice. And
I
I can
did that on partly on purpose, but partly also because like I would have had to like readjust my probably be in my grandma's driveway in order to like not get it through the trees, but I was like, hey, let's go for the aesthetic here.
exactly have something in the background or the foreground to really define what you're actually trying to focus on.
Hmm.
It
See, I
helps.
guess I am good at I mean, I'm not as good at as our friend Chuck.
Yes.
I'm very much a novice, but I'm getting there. And I think Chuck would be proud of that image.
I think you would too. And it's all in good practice. I believe Madeline mentioned that it was on her cell phone.
Yep,
Um,
it is on my current cell phone.
oh, cool.
So,
So, so
yeah,
does that mean if someone at home has a really nice Apple phone that they could also take images like this as well?
yes. If you have one
Awesome.
of the current models, you can. And I know Samsung also takes pretty decent astrophotography images for a phone, but I don't know the specs on that because I do not own one.
Mm, okay. Well,
So you guys might be wondering when is the next conjunction so I can test out my astrophotography skills.
exactly. Yes.
Well, if you want to wake up really early in the morning on April 3rd and April 4th, so Sunday and Monday, then I highly recommend waking up for that because you will see a conjunction of Saturn and Mars.
Oh,
Venus will also be nearby, but not quite as close.
okay.
When you go out and look at this conjunction, Mars is going to look a little bit reddish, and then Saturn typically looks this yellowish white.
Mm.
So,
Hmm.
what you'll have to do is you're going to have to wake up about an hour before sunrise, which I
Ooh.
know is really hard.
Yeah.
But if you if you deem it worth it, you got to look in the south or southeast and you'll be able to see this spectacular night sky event, assuming that the weather cooperates.
Exactly. The weather is very unpredictable, but we will hope that it is in our favor.
Yeah. And if you don't catch that one, fortunately, at the end of the month, um, there is a conjunction of Venus and Jupiter, which will also be pretty cool. It'll be
Mm.
in a different location of the sky where the Saturn and Mars one, you'll have to look in the constellation of Capricornus,
Mm.
but Venus and Jupiter will be in Pisces.
Hmm.
So you have a few opportunities for conjunctions this month.
Nice, very nice. Well, thank you very much for sharing that image with us. It was very beautiful, very beautiful. Very shocking that it's from a smartphone, but very beautiful indeed.
Yeah, I think I could have gotten a better picture if I had used the 10-second setting, but I didn't know it existed back then.
You live and you learn.
Yep, now I do know, and so now I can take better pictures than what I can
Well,
back
crew,
then.
we are called Constellation Crew for a very specific reason, because we love to study constellations. So, we are going to actually talk about a couple of constellations as well as an asterism. So, I am going to fast forward time a little bit. And in the meantime, an asterism, for those who don't know, is a very commonly named grouping of stars that does form some sort of a shape. It has a popular name. However, it is not one of the 88 constellations that we have in our night sky. So that is why it is called an asterism. So we're going to zoom. Everything's flying fast. That's the great thing about Stellarium. That's what we're using today. It is a planetarium software. We can speed up time. And now we are in the middle of the night, and we are looking still in the south direction, southeast. So I have the asterism lines up here. I'm going, and as well as the constellation lines should be up as well. Let's see. They are up. Very good. So, for those who are Constellation Crew veterans, we have talked about the summer triangle in past episodes. And believe it or not, this is not an April Fool's joke. There is a spring triangle.
I
I
would have
know.
thought it was an April Fool's Day joke too if we hadn't discussed this before the date.
No, we have a spring triangle, a summer triangle, a winter hexagon, but no fall shape.
Mm-hmm.
We need to make
All gets
that.
left out. So sad.
Exactly. Well, our summer. I do this every time. My apologies. Our spring triangle is made up of three constellations. We have our lovely guest back at it again with Leo, the backwards question mark of Leo. And
That was very popular.
yes, very popular for our last episode. Um,
Yep.
the star Regulus is included in our spring triangle. We also have the constellation Virgo. And we also have the constellation Boötis. And yes, that is how it's pronounced. It's going to be super fun to say throughout this episode. But here is our spring triangle here. If you can see our backwards question mark. And then we're going to trace it again. It's kind of a strange looking triangle. It kind of reminds me, if Madeline and Caleb remember back in our observational astronomy class, we were looking at triangles on spheres.
Oh yeah.
That is exactly what this triangle looks like
It,
to
it
me.
makes me think of like traveling, like when planes travel across the world, they don't go in a straight line, they go in a curved direction.
Mm-hmm.
That's
That's what
cool.
makes me think
They
of.
go on great circles.
Yes. I'm going to try and zoom in here a little bit more. For some strange reason, our constellation lines are not coming up, so I'm going to try to see if the art will come up instead. I guess not.
I guess they were trying to play hide and seek like Caleb's multiple star systems also include.
Possibly. Oh, maybe.
I guess you have to see it if you want to believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to
well,
see
well,
for
with
my very eyes.
Sirius, like one of them was like a white dwarf star, so you probably couldn't see it. So
Mm-hmm. My goodness.
Tragic.
Well, Stellarium is not my best friend today, and that is okay. We have the asterism lines up, and that is what we will work with today. My apologies to our viewers. However, we still can see our spring triangle, which is amazing. We will do our best with what we have. We definitely know that Leo is up in this corner because of our backwards question mark. So, but we are actually going to start with Virgo, and I believe Caleb, our awesome black hole specialist, has some stuff to say about Virgo. Hint, hint, in the future. Have anything
Yeah.
to say about Virgo, Caleb?
Oh yes, Virgo has a particular object known as M87, which is an elliptical galaxy, which is actually part of the Virgo cluster, was actually one of the most luminous galaxies in our local universe.
Nice.
But what's even more interesting is that a few years ago, some people might remember this, the people from the Event Horizon Telescope came out with the first ever image taken of a black hole.
Hmm. Wow. I pulled that up for you, for the audience members. That is very beautiful.
Yep. That and
Definitely.
the Event Horizon Telescope actually is not just one telescope; it's actually a number of telescopes across the world who had to work together to create basically a telescope the size of Earth to create this image because they're working in the radio spectrum. So it,
Hmm. Okay, so it's a radio telescope
it's a series of radio telescopes.
then?
Yep.
Okay. Interesting.
So
So then, how does a radio telescope make an image, if you know? Or
um,
Madeline?
I don't know a ton about like radio, but they basically a lot of radio telescopes look like, dishes and like we traditionally think of like radio as like sound, but like technically it's a wave of light and those radio waves, you know,
Interesting.
basically act like the like the mirrors and lenses of telescopes
Hmm.
in order to like focus the image, but I unfortunately am only an optical astronomer, so I'm by no means an expert in radio astronomy.
Hmm.
from what I understand of like a radio telescopes, often dishes have to be very large in order to better observe the objects they're looking at. And for object like this, they had to basically combine all these telescopes together, to essentially create like a radio dish, basically the size of Earth, basically.
Interesting. Okay.
So
Well, is there anything else about Virgo that we would like to talk about today?
well, actually, on the black hole image, from observations of Event Horizon, they actually determined that it's actually 6.5 billion times the mass of our own sun.
Wow.
So,
That's
and
really
if we
large.
compare that to the black hole, the supermassive black hole in our own galaxy, known as Sagittarius A star, that is only 4 million times the mass of our sun.
Wow.
It's tiny in
Yeah,
comparison.
and it is also is also M87. The M87 black hole is actually big enough that our solar system could basically sit comfortably inside of it.
Hmm. Interesting.
Wow.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
Just blowing
Escape
my
the
mind.
fact that spaghettification and, can
yeah,
eat black holes
but
merging and
Yeah, we're
I,
ignoring some fundamental physics here.
yeah.
what I find fascinating is that black holes, I mean, are the most massive objects in the universe, but like they are also extremely small from what you expect how big a black hole to actually be.
Hmm. Yeah.
You if we had a black hole the mass of our sun, I believe I think uh it would be only like correct me wrong, 3 kilometers across.
Hmm.
It's different. I don't know what the number specs are. I mean, I know I calculated it at one point, but it definitely would be very, very small
Yeah.
in
So
diameter. compared to what the actual sun's diameter is.
So
Wow. Well, thank you very much, Caleb, for all of the black hole stuff. Fortunately, we were able to figure out our issue with Stellarium, and we have our constellations up. Yay!
yay.
So, as we mentioned earlier, we have our backwards question mark, which is an asterism, as we saw earlier, but that is a part of Leo, which we have discussed before. And then we do have Virgo towards the bottom here. Um, And then over on this side, it kind of looks like a kite to me. And this is Bootes.
I can see how that looks like a kite.
Yeah. Or someone with some little legs, maybe. Someone running. Now it really looks like someone running now that I look at it. But, um, Madeline, do you have anything to say about Bootes since we haven't talked about this
I
constellation before?
do. I do. And I gotta shout you out because you gave me the idea for what I was gonna talk about. So, we all know I'm obsessed with dwarf galaxies. So, would it really be Constellation Crew with me involved if I didn't mention dwarf galaxies at least once or twice a semester?
Fair enough. I do love dwarf galaxies now that you have explained them to me many times, and it's also something that I didn't know about. So I'm very excited to hear what you have to say today.
So, Bootes has at least one dwarf galaxy in there.
Oh,
The one that I'm going to talk about is Bootes 1, and it's what's called a dwarf spheroidal galaxy. And that just means it looks kind of like just a small blob of stars. In fact, if you went and looked at an image of it, you'd be like, is this like really a galaxy? But
hmm.
yes, it is, and astronomers have used uh they've used tools to confirm that's a galaxy. It's also called an ultra faint dwarf galaxy, and so its brightness is very like spread out, and so that like because it's the brightness is so spread out, it just doesn't like come up well in the sky, and you if you were using one of the big telescopes out there to image it, um to kind of give you like a comparison of like how big it is, like it is only about 100, or well, not how big it is, how bright it is.
Okay.
It is only about 100,000 times as bright as the sun, which is kind of wild.
Yeah.
So, but even though it's you know, not incredibly bright, it's actually one of the brightest ultra faint dwarf galaxies in the universe.
Wow.
And
Oh, the universe. Okay.
or not the
Wow.
yeah, that we know about anyways,
Yeah.
because a lot of dwarf galaxies, um, you wouldn't be able to see them like really far away at the edges of the universe because they're so faint.
Mm-hmm.
But fortunately, this one is a satellite of the Milky Way. It's
Oh,
only about 200,000 light years from Earth, so it is very much um, something we can observe if you have a big enough telescope.
interesting. So, a big enough telescope for someone in their backyard, or are you talking observatory
We're
telescope?
talking more observatory things because I
Okay.
highly doubt you would be able to image this
Oh,
with
okay.
a backyard telescope, but um, there are plenty of images out there of it on the interwebs from professional astronomers who have observed it.
Hmm. Wow. Maybe we can look that up towards the end of the program here. Just want to make sure that I don't mess with anything since Stellarium is not my friend today. But we are working with it. So we do have our final constellation of the three for our spring triangle, and we have talked about it. So we will talk about it very briefly. It is Leo the Lion. So
Okay.
do we have any comments about Leo the Lion today?
Oh, absolutely. Following with this dwarf galaxy theme, I was thinking of like fun objects we hadn't talked about in Leo,
Okay.
because we've talked about Leo a lot. And then I realized that there was at least one other dwarf galaxy in there, and it's called Leo P. And
Hmm.
the reason I know about Leo P is when I took extragalactic astrophysics at my undergraduate institution, my professor, this was her favorite galaxy like of all time,
Hmm.
and it just always stuck with me because Leo P is just this like dainty little thing, and it was only discovered actually this century.
Oh, wow.
Mm.
Yeah. And even more fun is it was discovered by an astronomical collaboration called Alfalfa. I forget what it stands for, but it's like an acronym in an acronym. And Alfalfa was actually the precursor to the SHIELD project that I worked on.
Hmm.
So
Oh, wow.
I guess by a couple of degrees of separation, I have a connection to Leo P.
That's funny. You mentioned your professor, like, from your undergrad. Like, this, I could never forget Dr. Barrington ever.
Oh yeah, I all of my astronomy professors at IU were incredibly iconic. So I have lots of stories about each and every one that I interacted with a lot. So those are stories that, because of the interest of time, you can ask me about later.
Yeah, maybe we can
Yeah.
make it a day. Who knows? But
Absolutely.
let's see really briefly. So it was called Bootes 1 in
Yeah.
Bootes.
I don't know if it will. It doesn't come up as Bootes one. It comes up as whatever you typed
Oh,
when we made our outline for this episode.
hmm. Well, since we are not familiar with the name, the technical name, because that happens a lot in astronomy. Sometimes there is a easier name that we usually address something as, so a Bootes 1, and then there is a more technical name. So a lot of times, I'm not sure, and you can definitely correct me, Caleb, because we have talked about Regulus before for our Harry Potter fans. Is Regulus its actual name, or is there a technical name such as Leo Beta or Leo Alpha?
Well, I mean, like, there's like, in constellations, as I remember from my class, Dr. Barrington, that like, often in constellations, like they'll name stars as another name,
Mm.
for like, the order of brightness. So
Okay.
like say the brightest star in a constellation should be known as, say, like, Leonis Alpha. So I think Regulus is also known as Leonis Alpha.
Okay.
So, or there's also like, Beta Leonis, or and then I'm not sure what the next Greek letter is after that, but
Right, right. Yeah, because it is Greek letters.
I only know
Okay.
alpha, beta, and then after I don't know the order.
It's gamma, and
But
then after that, I forget it as well.
so
Okay.
Alpha, beta, I
there's
think it's a
no letter
delta.
C in the Greek alphabet, I'm afraid. So
Okay.
That's okay.
Well, I like the name Regulus a lot better, especially since it connects to
yeah.
Harry Potter. But
Oh yeah.
um, it is nice to know that there are other names that a star can have, and I am always wondering what if you ever read astronomical papers. Sometimes they'll use their technical names, which are really cool, and then sometimes they have other names. So certain long survey names can have a special name
Mhm.
for it. I can't think of any off the top of my head,
But the funny
but
thing about
So they're
astronomy is
hard to
that, like,
remember.
we often use names from like hundreds or even thousands of years ago. I mean, like,
mm-hmm.
like we still use the Messenger catalog from a guy who developed it like 200 years ago. So
Yeah. But well, just to recap, we were talking about the spring triangle, this constellation crew episode, and it is made up of three constellations. The star in Virgo here. Let's see if it'll click on it for me and tell me the name. It will not. I believe it starts with an S. And then we have Regulus here in Leo. And then let me think. We have the star in Bootes, and I actually think it's something around the lines of Arceus. Or not Arceus
I
technically.
think it's Arcturus.
Arcturus, thank
Arcturus,
you.
yeah.
And a little, that's just an
Spica.
extra Harry Potter fact. That's actually the middle name of Regulus Black.
Oh,
So
wow.
the full name is Regulus Arcturus Black, or as those who read the sixth book, RAB.
Oh, there we go.
See, it's
So
funny that you bring up Arct. I have a fun fact about Arcturus myself, also involving my undergraduate institution. And the summer before my senior year, I was helping out the department with just categorizing all of their observing
Mhm.
telescopes, so that they could use them for like public events, because prior to that year,
Mhm.
Swain West was under construction and they fell into disuse. And so one of the things I did was I named all the portable telescopes, and I named the most reliable and the coolest one Arcturus because it's fun to say.
There you go. And I just remembered for Virgo that it's Spica or Spica. So we have Spica, Regulus, and Arcturus.
yep.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So that is our spring triangle with our lovely constellations. Do any of my crew members have anything else to say today before we end our program?
Well, hope you guys enjoy the weekend and all of the pranks that I'm sure will happen today.
I would say everybody have a good start to the month of April and count down till the eclipse.
Yes.
Woohoo!
Oh, it's never too early to get excited for a total
I'm gonna be
solar.
looking at the weather for like months beforehand, like agonizing whether it's gonna be a good day or a bad day. So if nothing else, I will drive like that night. I'll drive like down to say what I think part of it's in Texas if I need to get a good view, get a good weather.
Yeah, that's probably where you would have to go. And
Yeah,
even then, I think sometimes Texas doesn't have great April weather.
yeah. So I would have to check like the climate and say this and like because it comes like from south. It comes from the southwest, like from like eastern Texas up almost directly north up through
The
the
Maritime
Midwest.
provinces of
So
Canada.
Okay. Well,
so
thank you very much, everyone, for coming to our Constellation Crew episode. To keep posted on astronomical events and, of course, the solar eclipse and anything else astronomy related, please visit our social medias for the Planetarium. And please come visit us as well if you'd like on Fridays and Saturdays. And I hope you all have a wonderful April Fool's Day. And please be safe. Jokes are fun, but please be safe.
Yep.
what she really means is go crazy.
No, she's not.
Save crazy. Save crazy. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.